Hello friends, I'm Gautam Sharma and I'm here to share with you a few lessons that I've learned about the evaluation speech contest at Toastmasters. I'm going to share with you some of the techniques that have worked for me, and I believe that these techniques might work for you as well. Let me begin by sharing about the contest format. The contest begins with a test speaker or a target speaker who delivers a 5 to 7 minutes prepared speech. The contestants are allowed to take notes during the course of the speech as well. Now, earlier we were allowed to carry our own notepads or notebooks or whatever we wanted to, but now Toastmasters has recommended the use of a specific evaluation sheet issued by Toastmasters. Now, contestants are given this sheet before the start of the contest, and when the speech is in progress, the contestants take notes. At the end of the 5 to 7 minute speech by the target speaker, contestants are given 5 minutes to write down evaluation notes. At the end of 5 minutes, the sergeant-at-arms collects the notes from all the contestants except the first one and escorts all of them to a soundproof waiting room. And then the contestants come in one by one, collect their notes, go on stage and deliver their evaluation speech. Now this is all about the contest format. I told this for the benefit of those of you who are new to Toastmasters and have not witnessed an evaluation contest before. Now the next thing that I'm going to talk about is how are you judged in an evaluation contest? What are the ballot parameters that you have to keep in your mind? The first one is your analytical ability. Your analytics of the speech has to be clear and focused, and this carries 40 marks out of 100. The second one is your recommendations. How positive, how specific and how helpful are your recommendations, and this carries 30 marks out of 100. The third one is your technique. Now this depends on how sympathetic or how motivational or how sensitive you are to the target speaker, and this carries 15 marks out of 100. And the last one and the most important one according to me is your conclusion, and this carries 15 marks. So 40 plus 30 plus 15 plus 15 is all that you need to score 100 in an evaluation speech contest. Let me begin with the lessons that I have in store for you. The first one is develop your own writing style. Now this looks very trivial, but this is a very important lesson that I've learned over the last 3 years in Toastmasters. As a contestant, what I used to do is I used to write a lot of notes. I used to write some of the points here, some on the right, some on the left, some behind, some in front, some on the top and bottom and here and there. And at the end, when I come back from the waiting room and look at my notes, I wonder if I really wrote them. Have you ever done that before? I can see you smile even through the camera, and I think you've done that before. We all tend to write so many points about evaluation here and there, and it becomes so clumsy for us to understand and decode what we have written. So I would recommend to follow a specific writing style, a style that suits you as an evaluator. An amazing technique to start off with is to divide your sheet into two halves and write the positive points on one side and the areas of improvement on the other side. Now this is a classic technique which most of the mentors would advocate. While this is a very good technique to start off with, you might have to improvise on this and find your way out when you grow as an evaluator. So what I do is I divide my sheet horizontally into a 70-30 format. The top portion, the larger one, is for the positive points and the smaller one at the bottom is for the areas of improvement. And then I draw a small margin on the left. Now I use this margin to write keywords. Now for example, if I find the body language of the contestant to be amazing, I just write body language on the left hand side, and then I write what I found to be amazing in that body language on the right hand side. Now the same goes for areas of improvement as well. Now if I find that a contestant's vocal variety has to be improved, I write vocal variety on the margin and I write what has to be improved and how it has to be improved on the right hand side. So by this, what happens is it becomes easier for me when I come back from the waiting room and look at my own evaluation sheet, and I have been used to this technique to a large extent, so much so that now even if you give me my evaluation sheet after a couple of years, I might still be able to tell you what I told the target speaker. So the first and most important lesson is develop your writing style, a style that suits you and a style that you can comprehend. Now moving on to the second lesson. This actually actually evolved out of a mistake that I did a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago rather, when I contested for the first time, and it cost my points big time. What I did is, they give us 5 minutes to write evaluation notes once the target speaker is done with his speech. Now I took out my paper and I kept writing till the end of the 5th minute, when the Sergeant-at-Arms had to literally snatch my evaluation sheet from me and walk out. Now just like we do in the university examinations, we keep writing till the supervisor comes and snatches our answer sheets from all of us. Now what happened is, when I came back from the waiting room and I looked at my evaluation sheet, it had about 25 points and I did not know which one to pick. It's very difficult to pick the right point at the right moment, a winning point, a point that can actually give you winning points. So what I ended up doing is I started fumbling on stage, searching for points. It was something like this. The first area of recommendation I would give for you is, yeah, this is good. So please follow this. And the second one, yeah, this one. So please follow this. So this is how I gave evaluation report to the target speaker. So what happened is, there were too many points and I did not know which ones to choose from. So the next time when I contested, what I did is I stopped the practice of writing during those 5 minutes. Instead, I would just number the points that I've already written during the course of the speech. So during the course of the speech, I write like about 20-30 points, and then what I do is, when the 5 minutes time is given to me, I just pick the top 3 positive points and the top 2 areas of improvement, and I just number them. I write 1, 2, 3, and these are the points that I'm going to speak. And once I number them, I read them once again in the order in which I'm going to present those points to the audience. So what happens when I do this is, I have a very clear picture when I go to the waiting room that these are the points that I'm going to speak in today's evaluation. So all I have to do at the waiting room is find creative ways to present these points, find nice openings for my evaluation, find a fitting conclusion for my evaluation, and make sure that my evaluation is a wholesome package to the listeners. So the second lesson that I have for all of you is, avoid writing too many things during those 5 minutes that are given to you. You might want to write a few important points, but do not write a lot of things. Just consolidate all the points that you have already written, number them, prioritize them, and plan well that these are the points that I'm going to speak in today's evaluation. The third lesson that I'm going to share with all of you is about the recommendations that you provide your target speaker with. I've observed a lot of champion evaluators follow this knowingly or unknowingly, and this worked for me as well in the 2015 evaluation contests. Now according to me, there are 2 types of suggestions that you can give your target speaker. The first one is suggestions pertaining to the speech parameters. This includes suggestions about body language, eye contact, vocal variety, stage usage, dramatics, pitch, pace, pause, and a lot of other things, the speech parameters. Now the second type of suggestions that you can give your target speakers is suggestions about speech logic, about the speech's purpose. Now, did the speaker connect the conclusion with the message? Did the speaker tie the conclusion back to the beginning? Did the story relate to the message? Was the whole script in line with the message the speaker is trying to tell you? And did the characters come off really well? Now each character in a speech should have a proper entrance, a proper part, and a proper exit. So were the characters used appropriately? Was there any character that was lost in between the speech? So these are some of the common errors that target speakers are prone to making, because we all know that most target speakers are relatively new to Toastmasters. They are the budding Toastmasters who are just learning to speak, and these are some of the common errors that you can actually spot in their speeches. But what I see in a lot of club level and area level contests that I attend is, many evaluators focus too much on the speech parameters. They give suggestions about improving body language, they give suggestions about improving voice modulation, they give suggestions about improving eye contact, but in doing all these things, we miss out the larger aspect of a speech, which is the speech purpose. Did the speech impact you as an evaluator? Were you connected with the speaker throughout his speech? If not, why? What were the logical errors that you could help the speaker improve himself in? If you can focus on these things as well, I'm sure that your evaluation contest speech will be amazing. So strike a balance between the parameter-based suggestions and the logic-based suggestions, and ensure that you have at least one of each, so that you give a killing evaluation speech in your evaluation contest. The fourth lesson that I'm going to share with you is a very important lesson that I've learned about giving recommendations. When you give your target speaker a recommendation, there are 3 questions which you have to answer for the target speaker. The first question is, what went wrong or what could be improved? The second question that you have to answer is, why should it be improved? The third question which you should answer is, how can the target speaker improve upon these things? Now, for example, if you tell that the target speaker's vocal variety has to be improved, you have to tell him that your vocal variety went wrong at such place, and I thought it could be more appropriate because it did not connect with me so well. And if you want to give a better speech, I think you can incorporate such a technique of vocal variety and present it this way so that your speech looks more appealing. Now let me give you a classic example which my mentor tells me often. Now imagine your target speaker has a sentence in his speech that says, I saw a huge elephant and a tiny little rabbit in the jungle. Now if the speaker's vocal variety was not really appropriate, you can actually go ahead and present your evaluation something like this. My dear target speaker, I felt that your vocal variety was not really appropriate when you spoke about the huge elephant and the tiny little rabbit that you saw in the jungle. Because your vocal variety was a little monotonous, it did not help me visualize the elephant and the rabbit to the best of my visual abilities. Now if you could improve upon your vocal variety, what you can probably do is try telling the same sentence in this way. I saw a huge elephant and a tiny little rabbit in the jungle. Now what I did is I told the speaker what was not really appropriate. His vocal variety in a particular sentence was not really appropriate. The second question that I answered for him is, why wasn't it very appropriate? I told him that it was not much appropriate because I was not able to visualize the rabbit and the elephant to the best of my visual abilities. And the third question that I answered for him is, how can he improve? I gave him recommendations, I demonstrated on how he should have told it, and you as an evaluator can also tell him some techniques that will help him improve his vocal variety. So when you give a recommendation to your target speaker, ensure that you answer these 3 questions, the 3 golden questions for your target speaker. What was not appropriate? Why wasn't it not appropriate? And how can the target speaker make it appropriate? The 5th lesson that I'm going to share with you is about a bang-on conclusion and its importance. A conclusion in an evaluation is one of the most undermined factors that we often tend to ignore in the ballot. While this conclusion carries 15 marks, it is also essential to give a bang-on conclusion because, as we all know, last impressions are the lasting impressions. The better your conclusion is, the more your chances are to get an edge over the other contestants. Now, a lot of times I see evaluators giving conclusions of the speaker's speech in a paraphrased way rather than concluding their own evaluations. Now, this is a huge mistake that has to be avoided. A conclusion in an evaluation speech has to be purely the conclusion of your evaluation speech and not the speaker's speech in a paraphrased way. Now, you can come up with creative ways of concluding your speech. You can link the conclusion with the theme of the speech and do any sort of creative ways to ensure that your conclusion summarizes all that you have to say and at the same time leaves an impression on the audience that you have done an amazing job. Now, once I tried this and it really worked for me. The target speaker gave a speech about natural salon, and she spoke about how the owner of Naturals struggled to come up with Naturals concept and how did he make it big, how did he succeed, and all that stories which were very inspirational. Now I went, presented my evaluation report, and at the end I said, your speech opening was like a beautiful bride who has just done a golden facial in a Naturals parlor. Attractive and captivating. Your speech body was like the Naturals franchise, widely spread across and covering a lot of areas. And your conclusion is like the Naturals price tag. Shocking, yet you cannot digest or forget it. Now this is a kind of conclusion that got me a winning place in one of the evaluations contests. Now a conclusion should summarize all the points you've said and also remember to end on a high note. Now this is very important. Please end your evaluation on a motivating note. that makes the speaker feel like coming back to the stage and attempting a speech once again. We all know that evaluators can make or break a speaker. One negative emotion in your conclusion can actually make the speaker feel so bad and never come back to stage once again. You should also be aware that the speaker's success is in your hands. The more motivating your conclusion is, the speaker comes back to stage, gives an amazing speech, and goes out and tells people that one day an evaluator gave me an amazing comment, and I stand here today because of that evaluator. So make sure that you give a great conclusion, and this would be my lesson number 5 for today. The last lesson I want to share with you through this video is a quick set of don'ts. Some of the things that you might have to avoid when you go for an evaluation contest. The first one is evaluate the speech and not the speaker. While it is okay to comment on the speaker's smile and dressing sense, quite a lot of times we end up putting too much stress and end up losing a few extra seconds in commenting about the speaker's sense of dressing or sense of smile or her grooming and all that stuff. So evaluate the speech and not the speaker. The second don't that I have for the day is evaluate the speech structure, logic and delivery and not the content. If the speaker gives a speech about Mahatma Gandhiji, do not go ahead and tell him that you could have given a speech about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose for this context instead of Mahatma Gandhiji. It is the speaker's choice to speak about whatever he wants to. So evaluate the speech's structure, style, delivery and a lot of other parameters that you have for you, but please do not comment on the speaker's choice of content. The third one is avoid using words like negatives, mistakes and all of that. Don't go and tell a speaker that you had few mistakes in your speech, you had few negatives in your speech. Instead use words like areas of improvement, recommendations. If I could suggest you something to make this good speech into a great speech, these would be my points. If you can structure and present it that way, the speaker will feel more motivated. And the last point that I think you should avoid in an evaluation contest is to speak from the perspective of an audience. A lot of times I've seen evaluators coming on stage and say, the audience felt bored at this point, the audience felt excited at this point. While it is okay, while you understand that the audience might have felt good or bad, you are not sure if they really felt so. So always present the evaluation. It is always safer to present the evaluation from your perspective. Tell the speaker that I felt excited when you spoke about this. I felt a little bored and disconnected when you spoke about this. Present your evaluation from your point of view and ensure that it makes an impression with the audience. So ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick recap of all those points that we have seen in today's video session. The first one is we spoke about the contest format, how the evaluation contest happens. The second thing that we spoke about today is the speech parameters on which you are judged in an evaluation contest, or a brief overview of the contest ballot. And then we started looking into the lessons for the day, the first lesson being write in your own specific style. The second one that we saw for the day is do not write too much on the 5 minutes that's given to you, write minimal points and ensure that you organize those points in those 5 minutes. The third and fourth points were related to the recommendations that you provide to the speaker. The third point was to have a balance between parameter-based recommendations and speech logic-based recommendations. The fourth one was those 3 golden questions that you have to answer when you give a recommendation to your target speaker. What was inappropriate? Why was it inappropriate? And how could the target speaker make it more appropriate? The fifth one was the importance of having a bang-on conclusion in your evaluation speech. And lastly, we saw a few set of don'ts that you have to avoid when you go for an evaluation contest. Thank you so much for spending time and listening to my session. If you have more queries or any feedback, please feel free to write to me at mail@gautamsharma.in. I'm looking forward to meet you all in another video presentation. Until then, this is bye-bye from Gautam Sharma.